Hello there. Now this is a real net zero puzzle, so I'm hoping that an eco-zealot can explain to us exactly how this happened. This is one of those points where net zero and archaeology collide. But I'm not going back millions of years, just a maximum of about 2,000 years. What's happened is that the level of the Amazon River has been falling, and we now learn that new carvings have been discovered in the rocks at the edge of the Amazon as the water level falls. You know, carvings made by humans as they sat about the edge of the river, fishing maybe, or sharpening spears and arrows. But this is the first time some of these carvings have been seen for 2,000 years. Because since then, the water level has risen, and the river was too deep to see them. But right now the waters are receding again, say the eco-loons, due to, yes, you've got it, climate change, global heating, or global boiling as it's now referred to. So does this mean that the Amazonians of 2,000 years ago were surrounded by carbon-heavy manufacturing, internal combustion engine cars and the like? Were they filling the atmosphere with jet fumes, all churning out greenhouse gases that forced the Amazon to start to dry up? Well, it must be so, because Greta Thunberg and her disciples tell us that only human activity can cause such events. We can also assume that the ancient Amazon was full of capitalists, because once again, communist countries such as China are not at fault for climate change today, even though they pump out greenhouse gases in huge multiples more than we do in the UK. But the eco-zealots say that it's all our fault, because they never ever travel to China clasping their superglue, do they? No, so it can only be Western capitalist countries that are the problem. Now, one archaeologist, Jaime de Santana Oliveira, says that the engravings are prehistoric or pre-colonial. We cannot date them exactly, but based on evidence of human occupation of the area, we believe they are about 1,000 to 2,000 years old. Pre-colonial? Well, that lets Europe off the hook for the climate devastation that must have been experienced back then. We can rest easy in the UK that we will not be expected to pay climate reparations because the Amazon dried up 2,000 years ago. Especially as we in the UK did not have anything much more advanced than horse and cart back then. If you could afford either of them, that is. However, we keep being told that there have been record droughts these last few years. Well, it seems the ancient denizens of the Amazon saw even heftier record droughts. But the big question is, how did they cause those droughts? Because, as I said, the claim is that only humans can do such dastardly work. And further, how did those hunter-gatherers change the climate back again? Because that can be the only way the Amazon recovered, can't it? What taxes did they impose? Was it their 2-minute villages that did the trick? Did they stop eating meat? Is there evidence of the use of heat pumps, wind turbines and solar panels? We need to know how they did it, because it might help us on our path to net zero bankruptcy. Now, we also learn that the Amazon is now suffering its worst drought in a century. But wait a minute, how can that be so? That would mean that the Amazon was as low back then, both 100 and 2,000 years ago, as it is now, but then recovered quite quickly during the West's industrial build-up, long before governments imposed all those green measures on us. That cannot be possible. What is going on? Why are we not studying what our forebears did during those key decades that saved the day for us? Or is it the truth that they did nothing that caused those droughts in the first place, and did nothing later that caused the waters to recover to their previous levels? Other than maybe a bit of witchcraft type stuff, thinking that sacrificing some animal or other might get some god or other to lift the curse and change the weather for the better. But of course that can't be true either. Because if that were true, it would prove the whole net zero thing today is at best a mistake and at worst a scam. But we have all these highly qualified people, like the aforementioned Greta, all telling us that their PhD theses are telling us that we need to pour ever more billions and trillions into net zero research and just do as we're told. Trust us, trust the science, and never argue, they shout. In fact, in the past, there have been attempts by the Green Lobby to get anything that questions the climate change agenda actually outlawed. But events like this one will have people, rightfully, asking questions. But answers, there will come none. Richard.
I didn't want to do a video today, but what I just saw will haunt me until my dying breath. No, it wasn't one of the many pieces of video that's circulating on social media displaying the acts of barbarity committed by Hamas in Israel, but this was footage of an unspeakable act of love and kindness by an 85-year-old woman. An act of kindness she gave to one of her Hamas captors as she was being freed. Yocheved Lifshitz, I hope I pronounced that right. Anyway, she was being handed over to the Red Cross along with the second hostage at the Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt. It was at this moment of handover that Yocheved turned to the armed terrorist who handed her over and she held his hand and said, "Shalom, peace." She said this whilst her husband remains held hostage by Hamas. How did she do this? Where does this capacity to love come from? To love somebody's enemy who's... I don't know. As a Christian, I feel like an utter hypocrite and shamed by her act of love and forgiveness. Absolutely mind-bending. I have to confess that, like many of you out there, I have felt rage inside me, demanding justice for the actions of Hamas against Israel, and felt myself wanting Gaza to be bombed into the Stone Age to get rid of that evil that sits in the power base of Gaza. But then guilt would quickly ensue, as I would think of the children who would suffer a horrific fate from such a retaliation, and then self-loathing for ever wishing such a thing. But what this lady did was incredible. The love of her life is still being held hostage by Hamas, and goodness knows what she has had to witness in the past few weeks. She was able to do the kindest, most selfless act of unconditional love I have ever seen. Now, when she was asked why she did this, she replied, because they treated her well. Well, what do you think she's going to say? Her husband is being held captive still. He is still a hostage. Of course, Israel has the right to defend itself from such evil and depravity. But I have to say, I know exactly how this is going to play out because of the timing of it all. I read about this specific sequence of events unfolding a long time ago. And like many of you, I have been waiting for this to happen, unfortunately. I am waiting for Iran, Russia, Turkey and all of Israel's neighbours to wage war on Israel. And it will happen. Anyway, leave your thoughts in the comment section below for Jeff and myself to read. And if you can help support two old men who make videos, please support us via Patreon, PayPal or the YouTube portal so we can keep regular content on this channel going. Links in the descriptions box below on how to support us. And thank you so much to all of you who have already donated to us or committed to monthly payments via Patreon. Unbelievable. You know, for the price of a pint, you're keeping this channel going. God bless all of you. And pray for the innocent and pray for your enemies, even though it feels like the most unnatural thing you can do. I'm having difficulty with that one, trust me. Anyway, bye for now.